Hi everyone, Anthony Morganti here. Today is the day Luminar NEO has been released, and in this video I'm going to give you a quick start overview of the application. In the description below this video, I'll have a link to Skylum's website. If you're interested in Luminar NEO, you could check it out there. I do have a discount code, and I want to mention something very quickly about the discount code. Yesterday and the day before, I did two videos on two different products by On1 Software. One was Portrait AI, and the other was No Noise AI. And of course, I have discount codes for those products as well. And after those videos posted, a few people mentioned in the comments that my discount code is not working. What often happens with these companies, when they have the product on sale, they will disable all discount codes. And that's what happened with those two On1 products. They happened to be having a flash sale, and because of that, my discount code was disabled during that sale. So if you go to Skylum's website and you purchase Luminar NEO and try my discount code and it's not working, it may be because Luminar NEO is on sale. If it isn't working and you're sure that Luminar NEO is not on sale, contact me and I'll get a hold of Skylum and see what the problem is. Now, with that said, should you buy Luminar NEO? Well, I don't know. I'm going to be very honest with you in this video. It's okay, but in my opinion, I don't think it's a finished application yet. It's missing some functionality that I think it desperately needs. And I'm going to mention that throughout the video. When I find an issue with something, I will let you know. I don't want to just kind of gloss everything over because I'm hoping you'll buy it using my discount code and I'll make a commission, because I don't want to operate that way. So it's okay, but it has the potential to be very, very good. Unfortunately, I don't think it's there yet. Now, let's just talk about it and let's go over how to use it. As you can see now, I have it open and I'm in the section called Catalog. It has two main sections. I call these modules. One is the Catalog section. The other is the Edit section. Very simple. I'm in the Catalog section. If you want to get some images into Luminar NEO, it doesn't have an import function yet. What you need to do is just go over to Add Photos, and then you navigate to where they are on your system and click on, highlight that folder where the images are, and click Add, and it will add that folder of images to Luminar NEO. And you can see over here where it says folders, I have 4 different folders, and it does keep your file structure. You can see that I have a folder called Luminar NEO Images, and inside of that folder is another folder I called Working Folder. So it does keep your folder hierarchy, I guess you could call it. So that is good. So you get these images in Luminar NEO, and above the folder section, there's some quick links. So if you want to look at all photos, you could click here. Luminar NEO comes with some sample photos, so you could click there and access these sample photos and try your hand at processing these. Single image edits, these were just when I had a session and I edited a single photo. They'll show up here. Recently added, these are the images that I recently added to Luminar NEO. Recently edited, obviously, ones I recently edited, and trashed. These are images I deleted from Luminar NEO, and they end up in the trash bin right here. Now, below folders, you'll see that there's a section called Albums. Those of you that may be familiar with Lightroom Classic know that there's something in Lightroom Classic called Collections. Luminar NEO's albums are exactly like Lightroom's Collections, in that you could take images from different folders and put them in a single album. To do that, start out with some images. I have one folder here and I have a bunch of images, but let's just say I want to add this one. I'm going to hold the Command key on my Mac, Control key on a PC, and click on that one and click on that one. So I have 3 selected, and I want to add these 3 images into an album. Once I have them selected, go over on the left-hand side, and you can see when I hover over it, Albums has a little plus sign. click on that plus sign, and it automatically opens up a new album or creates the new album. It's calling it New Album 2, and it automatically put those 3 images in that album. Now, it doesn't pull the images out of the folders. They're still in the folders. It's just grouping them together in this album. Now, I could click through other folders on my computer over here on the left-hand side and drag images one by one and just drag and drop. So if I go to even Luminar NEO images, or no, let's go to my working folder, let's say, and this one here, I could just drag it and drop it into that folder. So now we added that image to that album. I should say I called it a folder. If you want to rename this, just double click on the name and you could rename it. I'll call it My Album. If you want to delete an album, you're done with it, you don't need to use it anymore, just right click right on it, go to delete. When you do this, you will not delete the images and you will not delete the edits. You're just deleting the album. The images are still on your hard drive in their folders, and Luminar's catalog still has those edits. So you don't have to worry about losing anything when you do that. So that is albums. Now, in the lower left-hand side, below all that, you'll see some information about your image. You could see that, let's say this image here is a Nikon RAW file. You can see RAW. I'll click on the little eye and you get some more information. You got the resolution, the camera I use, Nikon D800, the date I took it, and the size of the image, and some of the exposure information as well. Click on that eye again and you'll collapse that down. Now on the top right now we're in grid view. All right, so we're seeing the images in a grid, and you could control the size of these little previews. Click here, I'm in large. You could go to small, go to medium. I'll jump down to largest, and I preferred large, so I like it right there. Then you could show all photos, favorites, rejected, unmarked, and edited. I'll talk about that more in a minute. And you could sort them by capture time, edit time, pick, and so on. Now, as far as the showing all photos, you notice there was something there called edited. If you look in the top left-hand corner of some of the images, like this image here, you could see that there are a little icon like sliders. That means that image has been edited. If I right click on that and I go to adjustments, I could revert to original and it's unedited. To the right of that, you can see this one is edited as well. If you want to favorite an image, if you hover over it, you'll see a little heart will appear in the bottom right hand corner. You could click on it and that image is now favorited, and it is over here now in favorites. And you could do that with any image. Just click on it, and that is, basically what you could do in grid view of catalog. Now, if you want to look at a single image, just double click right on it. And this is called loop view. Now in loop view, you could still see all the images that are in that folder down here. This is the film strip. Over here under the image, you could favorite it or unfavorite it there. You could reject it by clicking the X. You're going to do that probably if you want to delete the image. I'm going to keep it favorited. You could see a before after by holding in this little eyeball icon with the left mouse button. So there's before after. Obviously, I didn't do any edits to this image, so that isn't doing anything. And how much do you want to zoom in? Do you want to zoom into 100%? You could do that, or you could fit to screen and so on. Finally, as far as the catalog section is concerned, in the top right-hand corner, we have this little icon here. This is to export. You could export it to disk, send it through if you have a Mac, through messages in email, and connect is with the Luminar Share app that is for Android and iOS, and I'll do a video on that in the near future. But we're all here because we want to see how the application does at editing. So to do that, pick an image. I'll pick this one. Part of the reason why I'm picking this one is it has some significant power lines. And I've mentioned in a previous video that I only had one image that I could find that had any power lines in it. Well, since then I found a couple more, and this is one of them. And I wanted to do this because these power lines are a little more obnoxious compared to that other image I did. So we're going to see how it does with this. Also, this image needs a lot of processing. It's underexposed. I exposed for the sky. I didn't want the clouds to blow out, so I underexposed it on purpose. So we need to open up those shadows quite a bit. So let's go to the edit panel. Now, when we do that, if you don't know anything about editing, you never post-processed an image in your life, Luminar NEO and Luminar AI in previous versions, it it makes it really easy. What you could do is just go to this enhance tool right here. And by the way, over here on the right are all the tools. I should mention this. The tools are divided up into sections. Essentials are the tools at least Skylum thinks you're going to most often use. So they're right here at the top. Below that is creative. And these are tools that you would use to give your image a certain kind of look or feel. Below that are portrait tools, and below that are what they call professional tools, and there's only a couple tools there. Now, I mentioned if you're new to this and you've never really processed an image before and you just want to process something very quickly and share it with the world, go to Enhance. It's really a single slider, although there are two sliders here. Take that exact Accent AI slider, move it to the right, and you'll see it's opening up the shadows, and it's adding contrast, and it's adding saturation. So that one slider does quite a bit. Slider below it will just work on the sky, and basically it makes the blue sky a little darker and adds some contrast. So if you are new to this, you really don't know what you're doing, you could just go to Enhance. Now, if you want to just reset it, you could reset it right there, and you'll zero out the sliders. You also could you could reset any slider to its default position by double-clicking on it. And also, if you have a number of tools applied to an image and you want to start over, you could go down to the bottom where it says Actions, click on there and just click on Revert to Original, and that resets it completely. So we're right back to the beginning. Now, this image, I thought Enhance kind of overdid it. As I was moving it to the right, I liked how it opened up the shadows, but it was increasing saturation a bit too much. And unfortunately, since it's a single slider, I can't stop it increase saturation as I'm opening up the shadows. So I need to do that on a little bit more granular basis. And you'll do that with the Develop tool. So we'll click on that, and you can see because this is a raw file, it says raw right here. If it wasn't a raw file, it wouldn't say raw. Also, because it's a raw file, I have the option to pick a camera profile. If you're not working on a raw file, this will not be here. You won't have that option. Now I'm going to go right to light, and I mentioned that this is underexposed. The shadows are pretty dark, so I'm going to go right to the shadow slider and open up the shadows. I'm going to open up quite a bit. As a matter of fact, all the way. So I opened up the shadows. Now it's looking a lot better. I'm going to bring highlights down a little bit. And I don't think it needs any contrast. Exposure is okay. So far, I just moved two sliders. It looks pretty good. I'm going to close that down, and we'll go to the white, blacks, and whites. Now, here is a limitation of the app. And I mentioned I don't think it's actually finished. There really isn't a way to know if you're clipping the highlights or the shadows. In the previous version of Luminar, that was Luminar AI, you could hit the J key. And when you hit the J key, if you opened up, let's say, whites too much and you started to clip them, you would get a red overlay on them. If you brought down the blacks too far and you started to crush the shadows, you would get a blue overlay on that, letting you know that you're clipping those areas. There isn't that functionality here. Also, there's no histogram yet. So we really can't even look at a histogram to see if we're starting to clip. And, on Lightroom, you could hold in the Alt Option key. I think you could do that on On1 Photo Raw 2022 as well, and get a white and black point that way. That functionality isn't in Luminar either. So we have to wait and hope that they add some type of clipping functionality to the application in the near future. Until then, we're going to have to wing it. So we're going to bring up whites and bring down the blacks a little bit. So we added basically a little contrast. Now, one of the reasons I mentioned that I picked this image is because of those power lines. I didn't try this ahead of time. So we're going to see how it does on these power lines. Now, the power line removal tool is inside of the erase tool. And when you click on that, you can see it's right here, remove power lines. It's just one click. And with my experience with that other image that had very minimal power lines, it took around 20 seconds. Now let's see how long it takes here. So we'll just click it. I'm not going to count. But let's see how it does. Hopefully it gets rid of them perfectly and I don't have to comment anymore. But we'll see. So we'll wait. It's probably around the 20-second mark right about now. Maybe a little longer on these because there's a few more. There are only 2 lines in that other image and they were really small. Okay, it did okay. It got rid of the top ones pretty well. There's a bit of the top one over here, And there's the bottom one still over here and a little bit over in here. So what do? Well, after it automatically removes the power lines, you do have the erase brush open, and we could use this. Now what you could do is you could affect the brush size with this slider, or you could use the bracket keys. The left bracket key makes it smaller, right bracket key larger. Now I'm going to get the maximum small. And then what you'll do is just paint on the areas you want removed. Very simple. So I'm going to paint on that chunk of the power line. And hopefully you can see in the video, there's a bit of a red overlay there from where I painted. Then we'll do that part. Then we'll do this part. Then we'll do this part. See how that does there? So we have these red overlays on the chunk of power line there. I'm going to do this part of the power line that left it there. And I think there's a little bit right here as well. And then we have this one up here. Now, unfortunately, that's the smallest the brush gets. I keep hitting the left bracket key. That's as small as it gets. So I can't get it any littler. So we're going to go up to the tree. I don't want it to, because it's a dark power line and the tree trunk is dark, I don't want it to think that that tree is part of the power line and all of a sudden we have a gap in the tree. So let's see. I have everything painted that I want out. We'll click on erase. And let's see how it does. And okay. It did okay over here. And I guess it did okay. Maybe there's still a little bit right here. So we'll just keep painting until we get everything gone. We'll click erase. And it looks pretty good. Maybe a little funky in here, maybe a touch, but I think it looks pretty good. So we did have to work a little harder at this. It wasn't totally automatic, but I still think it's decent. And hopefully they improve this functionality here. Now, while I have the erase tool open, well, let me mention if you have sensor spots or dust on your lens, or even some like water droplets on your lens, what you could do is click remove dust spots. This is a button similar to the power lines removal. Just click on that and it will hopefully remove all those sensor spots automatically. If any of them aren't removed by just clicking that button, again, just use the brush and paint on those sensor spots or whatever it is, and then click erase and you should be able to get rid of them that way. So it's okay. I think it worked pretty well. Hopefully it gets improved. And, I might have a bit of a power line right there. But I'm not going to take the time to do it now. I just noticed it now. See that? Yeah, I did. And a little bit still there. So I could zoom in and work on it a little more, but I'm not going to waste time in this video. But, okay, so if I was grading this from A to F, A would have been it worked with one click, and, F, it didn't work at all. I'd give this a C. So it's just, it's okay. It needs some work. So hopefully they improve that functionality. Now let's continue with our processing. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to go through all these tools in this video, but it's kind of an overview, stuff to get you started. The next thing after I've done tone, and all that tone was under the develop, right? I did light and blacks and whites. I don't need to do anything with curves. I don't need to do, well, I do need to do maybe some color, but not white balance. Sharpness, not yet. Noise reduction, not yet. Optics, we could auto defringe. All right, so we're done with that. And let's jump down to color. And I think if I just like boost saturation, it's like gonna look a little bit too saturated because it's a fall day when I took this and it was very colorful. I think what I really want to do is I want to go to the HSL part of this tool. This is hue, saturation, and luminance. And we're going to start with luminance. That's where I usually like to start. And what I like to do is I like to make the yellows a little brighter and the greens a little darker, give me a little more tonal contrast. Sometimes I like to make the blue sky a little darker. So I'll move that down like that a little bit. And every now and then I'll come in and do saturation as well. So I'll just make a specific color a little more saturated, like maybe the oranges a little more saturated. And that. So that is that. And actually, I think I'm pretty much done. Now, this was shot with at an ISO of 64, I think it said. Might have been 100, but either way, it's very low noise. But if there was some noise, I could go to denoise, move the luminosity slider to the right and color slider to the right. Advanced is just boost. So you got 3 sliders there. I could go to details, add some sharpening here, or I could jump back up to the develop if I preferred. Go up there and go to sharpness here and add some sharpening this way as well. So there's a lot of different tools, and some of these tools overlap. So you could sharpen in the develop tool, or you could sharpen in the details tool, or you could add structure with the structure tool, which is kind of like a sharpening as well. So there's a lot of different options here, and one tool might work well on one image where a different tool would work better on a different image. I'm going to add a vignette. All right. Now this is a landscape. You do have a landscape tool. So if you had some haze, you could dehaze it. You could like give it more of a golden hour look here. Foliage enhancer, to me, what I found is it makes the foliage look a little too saturated. So I usually don't use that at all. And then you have the foliage hue. So if you do move the foliage enhancer slider to the right, you could change the hue of it or shift the hue of it with that. And I'm not going to do anything there. So go to the vignette. I like to add a darker vignette. You could choose the subject. I really do like this feature. Now, right now, the subject's pretty much smack dab in the middle. We got the leading line of the creek or creek. We say creek in Western New York, but it's really a creek going across the middle. You click on that, and let's say you wanted for some reason your subject was at the far left. You could click over there, and then their vignette would be more centered over there. But obviously, we don't want that. We want it more in the center. And we'll just back it off a little bit. I like to add a darker vignette often. It helps, darkening the edges helps push everyone's attention more towards the middle of the image when they're looking at it. Now, there's a lot more tools. I will cover these in future videos. Also, I do want to add real quick, or very quickly, in the comment section below, let me know where you want me to go with my Luminar training. Do you want me to do like a full series beginning to end on how to use Luminar NEO? I'm kind of hesitant to do that because Skylum has been notorious for when they release an update, they change the cosmetics of the application sometimes considerably, and then all those old videos, people are lost because things look totally different. But if that's something you're interested in, let me know. Or if you just want me to cover specific features, let me know. We'll go from there. Now, let's say this one's done, but let's just pretend I wanted to come back in and edit something. All your edits are kept track right here under edits, and you can see they're in reverse order. That develop raws here, erase. There's develop there because remember I went back in develop and did some stuff, the sharpening and stuff there. Another time up here, another time here. So it adds it every single time. So you could have more than one instance of a tool on an image. So you can see I have the develop raw because that was the raw file. Then I did some other editing. Then it just did a develop. I don't know what I did that second time, but I know that third time I did some sharpening to it. And then I added structure vignette. So it's in reverse order going up now. So you could come back in and let's say I wanted to re-edit structure. I just click on it and I could re-edit it and go from there. And the vignette is open, ready for me to go. Now, those of you that used Luminar AI know that it had a thing called templates. They're now called presets again. So I think it was Luminar 4. They were called presets, or Luminar 3. Luminar 4, they were called presets. Then Luminar AI, they were called templates. And here they're called presets again. Now, the Luminar templates from Luminar AI are not compatible with or in Luminar NEO, but supposedly they're going to make a utility that will convert them. I'm not sure if it's out yet. Again, I'll have links to their website. You could check that out. So if you've created or you purchase third-party templates for Luminar AI, there should be, if it's not out already, it will be out soon, a utility to convert those for use in Luminar NEO. Now, Luminar AI's catalog, as it stands right now, is not compatible with Luminar NEO. I should have mentioned this at the top, and I apologize I didn't. So if you have thousands of edits in Luminar AI, you can't see those edits in Luminar NEO yet. They, again, will be coming out with a utility to convert those or convert your Luminar AI catalog and your edits to Luminar NEO. So hopefully that comes out very soon, because I know many of you, because that was my main complaint when they introduced this. I did a whole video on it where I kind of whined about it, and I said I was disappointed in it. I says, I can't believe they're coming out with an application that will not read the edits from the previous application. And then I guess I wasn't the only one complaining, because within a few weeks they announced that they were coming out with a utility, but it would not be launched when Luminar NEO was going to be launched. It would be coming out shortly thereafter, a utility that will convert Luminar AI edits to Luminar NEO. So hopefully that happens soon. So you have these 3 tabs across the top. That's what I'm trying to say. And you could add more than one instance of a tool on an image. So you could add, a number of different like color tools on top of an image if you needed. Now, once you're done, let's say you want to share it with the world, right? So go up here. There's a little export icon right there. Click there. I want to export it to the disk. And you'll come up with this dialog or something similar. It might be shrunk down like that. Just open it up. You could give it a new name. I'm just going to call it fall. All right. And then do you want to do some export sharpening? Some people like to do a little bit, especially if you're going to print it. You might want to do a little bit. Some papers require a little more sharpening than other papers, so you may want to do a little more than low. I'm going to do none. Resize it so you're able to, let's say, set the long edge for 1080. So I'm going to make this a lot smaller. The color space, you have the choice of sRGB, Adobe RGB, and ProPhoto RGB. That's in reverse order of size. So sRGB is the smallest, that's the next biggest, and that's the biggest. So we'll stay with sRGB. I'm going to do a JPEG. You also could do a PNG, a TIFF, a JPEG 2000, which no one in the world uses, which kind of sorry, because they are actually, it's a good file format, and a Photoshop or a PDF. We'll go with JPEG right there, and quality, we'll max it out to 100, not that anyone's going to notice. And we're going to send it to the desktop, and I'll click save. And when you do that, it will come up with this exporting, and it takes a little while. That's one of my complaints with a lot of, well, that went pretty fast actually, especially like On One and some other apps. They take a long time to export, and I'm used to Lightroom. It exports pretty much instantaneously. That went pretty good, so that was pretty good. Let's minimize it. And there's our image right here. And there's our image, 1080 on the long side. So it did a pretty good job. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to reiterate what I mentioned at the top. I don't really think it's completed yet, because it's missing the, especially for me, I like to know that I'm not blowing out the highlights or crushing the shadows. So without the ability to like get a good white and black point, that's important to me. So I kind of missed that. Some of the other functionality, like there isn't an import button. So if you have a camera hooked up to your computer and you just want to import images off your camera, that is kind of clunky to do, because you'd have to go through, some steps to do that. Specifically, you'll have to take those images off your camera outside of Luminar NEO, put them in a folder on your computer, and then go to the catalog section and click add photos and bring them in that way. So hopefully down the line they do add import functionality, so you could import them directly from the memory card or directly from the camera. Also, I didn't mention, this does have layers in it, and that's apparently why out of the box, the Luminar AI edits aren't compatible with Luminar NEOs, because of layers. At least that's one of the reasons. And that's part of the reason why they need this conversion utility that's going to be coming out soon. So layers are nice. And again, I'll be doing future videos, and we'll talk about Luminar NEO's layers capability and how you would take advantage of that. There's a lot of tools over here, so I have the potential to do a lot of different videos. My next video is going to be on sky replacement, because that's the question I get asked the most. And I want to get that video done and out of the way, so that when people ask me about that, I could say, watch my video on sky replacement. So I'll be doing that within a day or two. So look for that again in the comment section. Let me know where you want me to go with my Luminar NEO training. Do you want me to do more like just spot stuff, like how this works, how that works? and so on. Like I didn't even talk about the crop tool here, you know. I didn't talk about most of the tools. Maybe do a portrait in it, stuff like that. Or do you want me to do like beginning to end training? Just let me know in the comments. And I appreciate each and every one of you watching my videos. I really do. I'll talk to you guys soon.